Okay, good morning, excellencies, distinguished guests, colleagues, and friends. Welcome to this special event for the 80th United Nations General Assembly, Uniting for Peace Through Sports Diplomacy, co-hosted by the African Union and Football for Peace. My name is Renee Wood. I am an actress, an activist, a comedian, a former tennis player, and a peace ambassador, a Football for Peace ambassador, and I'm honored to serve as your master of ceremonies this morning. I bet you're all wondering, what's this blonde chick doing up here speaking at the African Union? Well, I am living my best Naomi Watts life, interpreter style. I actually overheard you guys last night speaking in a language that only 4 of us understand. So I'm here to do good. Actually, I did my genealogy, and I've been told that I'm 1% African, so I'm very proud. Honestly. Okay, so today we celebrate the groundbreaking partnership between the African Union Peace Fund and Football for Peace, which launched in London this May. We're going to show a video, so I want to make sure it's cute. Wow, what a great video. Okay, so to begin our program, I want to, we're working live here. I want to introduce the first speaker. It is my privilege to welcome to the stage Miss Dagmawit Mogus. I hope I said that right. Everyone needs to bear with me today. Director of the African Union Peace Fund Secretariat, for her remarks.
Thank you very much. Good morning, everyone. Thank you very much for coming. And today, we believe that it's going to be a foundation for all those aspirations that we have as the African Union to work with for peace, towards the peace and stability of our continent, and towards the resource mobilization initiative that we have as the AU Peace Fund. Your Excellency, Ambassador Parfait Onanga, Special Representative of the Secretary General to the African Union and Head of UN or AU, and our distinguished board member at the African Union Peace Fund. Excellencies, Ambassadors, Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. Again, good morning to you all. It's a great honor to welcome you to this high-level side event on the margins of the United Nations General Assembly. And I extend my warm appreciation to our co-organizers, Football for Peace, and to all of you who share the conviction that peace is both our greatest aspiration and our most urgent responsibility. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, Africa is a continent of remarkable diversity and immense potential. With more than 5,000 member states, population exceeding 1.4 billion, and a wealth of culture and natural resources, Africa is undergoing a profound transformation. The African Union, as the continent's premier institution, was established to enhance economic integration, peace, and development in our continent,
guided by our Agenda 2063, the Africa we want, the Union works tirelessly to foster peace, democracy, and inclusive growth. Yet, despite these aspirations, our continent continues to grapple with complex and interconnected challenges. Internal and cross-border conflict persists. Climate change intensifies, and competition over scarce resources is getting intense. Displacement and contests over natural wealth, coupled with resurgence of unconstitutional chains of government, erode governance and social cohesion that we have in our continent. This challenge demands coordinated solution grounded in sustainability and accountability. It's against this backdrop that the African Union established the Peace Fund, an innovative and strategic mechanism focused primarily on conflict prevention, a tool conceived and led by Africa to address African problems. The Peace Fund Secretariat is specifically mandated to mobilize and manage resources to ensure the availability of adequate, predictable, and sustainable financing for peace-related initiatives across our continent. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, in a world where global financing for peace, development, and other sectors is in decline, and competition over resources is increasing, engaging in innovative resource mobilization efforts has never been more critical. We are witnessing a clear shift in global financing landscape. Traditional sources of funding, including bilateral aid and multilateral contributions, are shrinking or becoming less predictable. That's why the African Union is putting innovative and robust financing strategies at the heart of our approach. We are actively exploring new financing models and strategies to partner across the private sector and different stakeholders that we have in our continent and beyond. This includes the private sector, state-owned enterprises, multilateral financial institutions, corporations, and philanthropists, foundations, and citizens of our continent, as well as our vibrant diaspora throughout the world. We believe that peace cannot be the sole responsibility of our member states. It must be underpinned by strategic, diversified, and sustainable investment. For this to happen, innovative financing is no longer optional, rather it is essential. Without it, we risk losing the opportunity of preventing conflict before it escalates and before it made us to incur unnecessary costs. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, the African Union Peace Fund stands today with a balance exceeding 410 million, and we have already secured our policy organs' approval to raise our disbursement up to 34 million USD to peace initiatives across our continent. Our governance is complete and robust, which is composed of the Board of Trustees, the Independent Evaluation Group, the Executive Management Committee, the Fund Managers, and the Peace Fund Secretariat, which is all fully operational at this instance. This enhanced governance ensures transparency and strengthens the trust of our member states as well as partners, and ensures that every contribution is rightly and effectively. And I'm so pleased to have our board member, His Excellency Parfait, in our room. He's going to make his remark immediately after I'm done with this opening remark. And I believe he's going to give you how trusted the Peace Fund governance structure is to work with. This enhanced governance will ensure transparency, as I mentioned. Yet, despite all this, peace is not secured only by financing it. Peace begins in hearts and communities. It grows when people find common ground, when young people have hopes, and when societies experience unity that transcends borders. Sport, especially football, embodies this power. One single pitch, players of different nations, languages, and faiths compete fiercely, yet respect the same rules, share the same goals, and often live as friends. Football inspires dialogue where words may fail. It teaches teamwork, fairness, resilience, the very qualities of such peaceful societies. This is why our partnership with Football for Peace is so timely and vital. Together, we aim to leverage football's global reach to amplify the message that peace is everyone's responsibility. We seek to engage young people across Africa and beyond, to be able to channel their energy, our youth energy, towards reconciliation and constructive citizenship. We also look to mobilize new resources and allies from athletes and clubs to private sector champions who can bring visibility and innovative financing to African peace initiatives. Through this collaboration, we are building a bridge between the financial architecture of the Peace Fund and the unifying spirit of football. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, as we gather here in New York, we invite governments, international organizations, philanthropists, and the private sector to join us. Your support, whether through direct contribution, joint programs, or advocacy, will ensure that Africa's communities benefit from both sustainable financing and the transformative power of sport. And with this note, I really want to say that we thank you for your commitment, and we look forward to the impactful collaboration that will emerge with this gathering that we are having today. And thank you so much for your attention. And with this, I would like to invite His Excellency Ambassador Parfait Onanga, SRSG, and Head of UNOAU to the stage to make the opening remark. And thank you.
We have to do better. You said it all. And really, congratulations on this remarkable address. Dear friends, I see a few ambassadors in the room, so the one mistake we don't want to make in diplomacy is not to recognize ambassadors. So, Your Excellencies, thank you for joining us this morning. And I was sharing that table with my dear brother Olivier, representing an amazing institution, UBA in Africa, really promising. And thank you for being in the room. It means a lot to all of us. My dear sister, Madam Director of the Peace Fund Secretariat, I don't know if Josh managed to make it, but let me mention him. Mr. Cash, we just spent some time together representing Football for Peace and co-founder and football diplomats. I don't know if Dean Shannon is in the room, but let me also, of course, yes, indeed. And so many friends. Bob, we've done a few things together. We have conspired on a number of projects, and it looks like my dear friend and colleague from the UN peace building fund is also in Europe. So we have a good group of committed leaders who believe in a cause that bring us together today. So allow me to say how honored and pleased I am, and together with some of my colleagues who came along, to join you this morning at the permanent observer mission of the African Union to the United Nations in this important event organized by the African Union Peace Fund. Again, congratulations, dear sister. And Football for Peace on uniting for peace through sports diplomacy. Let me begin by expressing my sincere appreciation to the leadership, the leadership of the African Union, to the Peace Fund Secretariat, and all partners involved in convening this important event. Your steadfast commitment to advancing African-led solutions for peace and security is not only commendable, it is absolutely critical and essential. On the occasion of the 80th anniversary of the United Nations, it is important to recall that the fundamental raison d'etre of the UN is to prevent future generations from the scourge of war and maintain international peace and security, while advancing the well-being of all peoples through sustainable development in larger freedoms. The links between peace and sports are countless and profound. From ancient to modern times, Olympic truces have been used to create new opportunities for ending hostilities and facilitate humanitarian relief. When politics, the art of the possible, no longer allows stakeholders to communicate, sports, by contrast, appeals to more altruistic feelings and fosters personal growth. Because sports carries a universal language, it enables individuals or groups moved by diverging ideas, beliefs, and aspirations to indeed transcend their differences and unite in a shared passion for the game. The point that Madam Director, you just made. But sport does not do only that. It does more than simply enabling physical contest. It promotes ethical standards and leaves no room, or let's say little room, for cheating. And that's something that is extremely relevant to our conversation today. The referee ensures the contest is fair, and the application of the established, by abiding by the established rules, making sure all players adhere to them and play by the same standards. This has been made ever more stringent, and those who are in what is called here soccer, in football, know best, through video assistant referee technologies, also known as the famous VAR. In international cooperation, the ultimate referee is the United Nations Charter, which protects and promotes values and principles such as sovereign independence and equality between states, as well as respect for international law as the bedrock of multilateralism and peaceful relations between nations. Like in sports, these normative frameworks nurture fairness and integrity. In this regard, sport stands as a living testament to how shared rules and mutual respect can unite people and nations, bridging divides and fostering peace through fair play. Excellencies, ladies, gentlemen, dear friends, history is rich of the formidable power of sport in diffusing tensions between nations and people. You certainly recall that during the Cold War, when relations between the United States and China were deeply strained, the unexpected invitation of the US table tennis team to China for a series of friendly matches helped toward diplomatic tensions and paved the way for President Nixon's historic visit in 1972. Younger generations may also remember how the late President Mandela made rugby a powerful tool for national unity and reconciliation and nation building when South Africa won the World Cup in rugby in 1995. It's also worth mentioning the role that global star Didier Drogba, closer to the continent, played in his home country, Cote d'Ivoire. We were talking about this with Olivier just a while ago, in securing a ceasefire when the country indeed was going through really a deadly conflict. What these few examples show is that where words fail and borders divide, sport unite, turning enemies into competitors and sometimes even into teammates, while transforming fields into fertile grounds for peace. Yet, sport cannot be a panacea or bring about durable peace and stability on its own. It must be part of a strategic political and peace-building vision to bridge differences through dialogue with a view to reaching a peaceful settlement and consolidating social cohesion. And this is precisely what former President Mandela did. Rugby was just a tool, but the vision was to bring a country together. So anytime we do that, we are absolutely sure that we will indeed meet our objectives. Now, in the current geopolitical landscape marked by heightened polarization, mistrust, and conflicts, I believe the moment is ripe for more sport diplomacy to bring nations and people closer together. This is particularly relevant at national and local levels, including in sports such as in support of track 1 or track 2 mediation processes. And this is something that diplomats know well, and especially given the increasingly internal nature of conflict, particularly in African context. The vital role of civil society organizations, and so glad to see many of you in this room today, women and youth leaders. These are the stakeholders who are often sidelined from politics and decision-making processes. So we cannot overemphasize that given their immense potential to actively contribute to building social cohesion, these actors are of course to be involved. Under its comprehensive peace and security architecture, AU instruments such as FAMWISE and WISE Youth, of course the panel of the WISE, working closely with the panel of the WISE, are playing a significant role and need to be further empowered. Dear friends, as we can see, sport has the unique power to bring together culturally distant peoples. It transcends language, borders, and ideologies, offering a shared space where diversity becomes strength and competition fosters connection. That is why it is absolutely imperative to promote such activities and ensure they are accessible to all, regardless of background or circumstances. Sport must not be a privilege of the few, but rather a right for all, in furtherance of unity and sustainable peace. And as you well know, UNESCO's constitution profoundly reminds us that since wars begin in the minds of men, it is in the minds of men. And that can even mean literally men, not women. That the defenses of peace must be constructed. And what better way to build those defenses than through sport, a force that nurtures the holistic development of body, mind, and soul, and sows the seeds of peace where conflict once grew. So we must commend the African Union for dedicating an entire fund to the promotion of peace. For peace is indeed the most precious good of nations. Without it, no sustainable development. And again, Olivier, thanks. I know you'll be commenting a lot on this. And in your line of business, indeed, we need peace so that development can grow. We must therefore commit to harness sports and enable transformative power, not only as a vehicle for promoting a culture of peace, but also as a tool for conflict prevention, a point that my dear sister made earlier. And as Secretary General Antonio Guterres rightly stated, sports is a global accelerator of peace and sustainable development for all. Additional financing through the Peace Fund would help support activities across the continent aimed at combating hate speech, promoting tolerance and national reconciliation, and more broadly, fostering peace-building efforts. As someone who is indeed privileged to serve the AU Peace Fund, I would like to state without any hesitation that thanks to its outstanding leadership, represented here by herself, the director, the fund is managed with the highest standards of accountable governance, integrity, and excellence. And it stands as a reliable instrument that deserves both our trust, but also our financial support. And I'm saying this convinced of one thing: peace has no price. Yet, resources dedicated to stemming conflict are tragically becoming inadequate. We welcome the remarkable achievements of the AU Peace Fund thus far. Meanwhile, the fund must remain open to new contributions, and I was pleased to hear from you, Madam Director, that this is exactly the case, to address the significant gap that persists in prevention financing, which continues to be the neglected pillar of public policy. Finally, I would like to take this opportunity to call upon the private sector, and Olivier, you cannot imagine how good you make all of us feel, by being in the room, representing UBA. So I'm really calling on the private sector and all strategic partners to mobilize the necessary resources to sustain and strengthen this invaluable instrument so that it may fully realize the transformative missions for which member states, African member states, established it. Namely, to be a catalytic tool in advancing the vision of an integrated, prosperous, and peaceful Africa. Indeed, the Africa we all want. Sport diplomacy should continue to play an essential role in successfully achieving this noble goal. And I thank you for your presence, for listening, but more importantly, moving forward with implementing the outcomes of your important deliberations. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Excellency. I am ready to unify your sport after that. That was incredible. I would like to introduce another video so we can watch it.
Imagine a continent, vibrant with potential, yet yearning for peace. A kaleidoscope of traditions, woven together by a shared dream. A peaceful Africa, where every thread thrives. This dream has a name, Agenda 2063. But dreams need resources to flourish. The African Union Peace Fund, a beacon of hope, a catalyst for peace. Join us on our journey of promoting and sustaining peace on our continent. Welcome.
So it is time for our panel. I'd like to thank our keynote speakers who spoke, thank you. And I'd like to introduce who's coming to speak now. So we'll hear from leaders across business, sport, culture, and the UN system on how sports diplomacy can unite communities and drive peace. It is my pleasure to introduce our moderators, Cash Siddiqui, co-founder and Dean Hayter, Dean of School of International Service at American University. Cash, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Renee. I know, Devin, you're going to play a quick video, right? One more, and then we'll have another chat.
Football is not just a game, providing a common interest and a unifying identity. It brings us together in the enjoyment of a simple pastime, without complication, but with plenty of passion.
Thank you, guys. Thank you, Devin. Dean Hayter, good morning. So, guys, we're going to bring the energy because I know everyone's bored of sitting down, etc. UN's been a tough week, so thank you for bearing with us as well. Who thinks football can change the world?
Yes.
Oh, Tariq Hamid, first there, for the first time. Well, we believe that football is the single greatest thing that can change the world. And who believes that actually football, whether it's soccer or NFL football, actually moves the continent? Yeah.
Absolutely.
I know you do for sure, 100%. Well, think about it. World leaders, tribes in the Amazon, kids on the continent, world leaders, UN diplomats, footballers, our friends, your friends, we all understand this. The football, 5 billion people it touches. And most definitely, Ms. Dagmovit, with your leadership, you understand this. So I guess our journey started 20 years ago at the United Nations. The late Kofi Annan started Football for Peace. And actually 63 years ago, my mother fled Uganda with Idi Amin's conflict. And as a former footballer, what football has given me is this platform. So I'm very humbled for this relationship with the African Union, to be able to take back now what my mother had faced many years ago. But with that said, we've developed Football for Peace globally as a global sports diplomacy organization. And in DC, with Dean Hayler's leadership as a former Assistant Secretary General to the United Nations and now a Dean of American University. Dean Hayler, what do you think?
Yeah, well, of course, I wouldn't be here if I didn't think this was fantastic, right? But first, let me just thank all of you for being here today. Your Excellencies, Director, partners in peace, and passionate peace builders, I think, amongst all of you. Thank you for giving us your time today for this very important topic. And thank you especially to the African Union and the AU Peace Fund. It is always particularly special for me to be invited into your space. I lived for several years in Zimbabwe as part of the U.S. mission to scale up HIV services, and have had the absolute privilege to work with ministers, presidents, first ladies, and civil society leaders across the continent on the same over the years, and partner directly with the AU and AUCDC on making impact for people's lives. So it moves me to always any opportunity I have to be invited into your space, so thank you so much. But that's part of the background as to why I think Cash and I connected so quickly on the Football for Peace partnership. At American University, I'm trying to say American University, not AU, because I don't have any confusion. You go by AU, little baby AU. Our School of International Service was actually founded in 1957. So 1957, 10 years into the Cold War. And at the groundbreaking, then U.S. President Eisenhower gave the school the charge to wage peace. To wage peace as the organizing purpose for our school, under the concept that peace is not just the absence of war. It is the direct actions we take on a daily basis to positively impact humanity. So when Cash reached out about Football for Peace, we're like, that sounds like something in our wheelhouse. Because in fact, that's the reason we're called the School of International Service and not just the School of International Studies. So privileged to be here as part of this partnership. And I think the second reason it's meaningful, I'm gonna adopt a phrase from Madame Bekele because it made so much sense to me. At SIS, we also believe in unity that transforms borders. I'm going to use this now forever because it's just such a concise way of pulling it all together. And in this project, that includes everything from how do we celebrate our Nairobi American University campus and all of our faculty and staff and students who are from across the continent, but also how do we recognize that at SIS we actually do think the U.S. is part of the globe, not separate from the globe. And as a partner with Football for Peace, we seek to mobilize youth ambassadors through the Football for Peace interventions across Maryland, D.C., and Virginia, and to mobilize policymakers in Washington, D.C., and our capital, so that we can exchange and learn with other partners who are trying to implement the same. So, just a privilege. Thank you.
Brilliant, thank you, Dean Hayler, that's amazing. So guys, we want to kick off with our panel. So firstly, I would like to invite Mr. Oliver Aruba, the Managing Director of the United Bank of Africa. Thank you so much for making the effort of being here with us. Also, Cuppy, thank you so much for making the traffic, beating the traffic. Josh has not beat the traffic, but a philanthropist, a DJ, and a celebrity from the continent. Thank you so much. And Mr. Robert Skinner, the Chief of Partnerships at the United Nations for Global Engagements and leading the charge on the SDGs with Football for the Goals initiative.
You invited extra.
Oh, we've got two now. So maybe we'll be happy with 2 soccer balls now. and Megan Mendoza, the Community Relations Manager at the National Football League of the NFL. So thank you for being here, Megan.
And I get the privilege of kicking us off with some of the first questions. And so my first questions are for Mr. Oliver. Oliver, you're a leading voice for African entrepreneurship and investment. So how do you see the private sector's role in advancing peace and sustainable development through initiatives like this partnership with Football for Peace and the AU Peace Fund?
Thank you very much. I think that's a very interesting question. First of all, I would like to send regards from my chairman of UBA, Mr. Tony Ebumelu, who is the champion of entrepreneurship in Africa. He would have been here, but for an incident that happened in Lagos and asked me to come to represent him. So I'm going to talk a lot from what he says. I would like to say first that private sector is a beneficiary of peace. Without peace and stability, we won't be able to have a private sector thriving. So it's important for private sector to invest in peace initiatives. It's not philanthropy when the private sector invests in peace. It's strategic. And also for sustainable business, the private sector to invest in this. My bank, United Bank for Africa, supports the partnership of Football for Africa and the African Fund for Peace. And we will continue to even make our financial contributions to that. My chairman, Tony Ebumelu, on behalf of UBA, made a contribution of $500,000 to this fund. And I think we will continue to do that. Private sector in Africa should be in the forefront of peace initiatives and support all the actions being taken by the peace fund. I was sharing with Ambassador earlier about my experience working around 20 countries in Africa. And I found out that at times the most important thing, the currency of business indeed is. Once the peace is not there, you can't do anything. I've had to close branches, at times moved out of a country because peace was disrupted. And I believe that we don't have to wait until peace is disrupted before we act. And that's where I see the importance of peace fund, where you preventive, you make sure peace is in place so that business can thrive. Thank you very much.
So I'm going to follow up on what you said and ask probing a little bit deeper. Thank you, first of all, for UBA's contribution to the Peace Fund on behalf of this event. I think that's an inspiration to hopefully others in the room as well. Of course, being successful in peace building often requires collaboration across sectors. And from your perspective, what does an effective public-private partnership look like in practice? And how can we ensure that other private sector entities follow UBA's model such that business investment can directly support long-term community resilience in these regions?
Okay, again, Tony will always speak about Afro-capitalism. And for him, that's the philosophy that guides his intervention in business. So Afro-capitalism means private sector, public sector work together on a long-term basis for the benefit of the people. And that's what we have been driving. Of course, we do know that he has Tony Ebumelu Foundation, where he's intervening in growing up entrepreneurs across Africa. And he has done that for the past 15 years. Today, he has about 24,000 entrepreneurs across the 54 countries in Africa that is creating jobs and preventing the cost of this disruption across Africa. So a typical example of that public-private sector, I can cite one around football. So in 2021, I believe Cameroon hosted African Cup of Nations, and they needed to build stadium. And what we did as a bank, United Bank for Africa, was to cooperate with the government of Cameroon and build the Olympic Stadium in Yaoundé and another stadium again in Douala, making that competition to be hosted by Cameroon, and it was just a successful one. I can also say that in Nigeria, if you know Lagos very well, the first monument in Lagos is National Theatre. National Theatre was built in 1997 by the then President Obasanjo and hosted the World Black Africa Festival of Arts and Culture in 1977. That's the giant monument in Sudan in Lagos. That monument for the past 20 years has been in the universities. We banks in Nigeria, working with Central Bank of Nigeria, decided to take a look at that monument, and we spent hundreds of millions of dollars to renovate and bring back life to that national monument. Incidentally, it will be opened on 1st of October, again to the people, so that I will going to jointly manage that with the government to ensure it doesn't go back to that state. That's another way of publicity and private sector partnership. And in UBS still, just last week, I was in Kenya and met with the key government officials there. And what is the issue? The government of Kenya wants to build roads that will connect Kenya to Uganda, and even nationally in the country. And they needed funds for that. Keep in mind that the government cannot be in a position to supply all infrastructure needs. The huge financial gaps across with many governments in Africa. And what the government is doing is to come up with a fuel levy. But what we did is to see how we can securitize that fuel. And UBA is investing $150 million in making sure that the government of Kenya has the funding to build this road infrastructure that will connect Kenya to Uganda and then connect various countries within Kenya. And that is the kind of support and kind of partnership where government comes in with the mandate and the policy guidelines. Private sector comes in with the innovation, with the resilience, with the results-driven mindset. And again, the civil society comes in with partnership and will build an infrastructure that will support development sustainably in Africa.
Thank you so much.
Coming to you. So, you've had a global career in you've had a global career in music and art, on the continent, etc. What's your thoughts on combining that with the culture of, well, firstly, whether it's football or soccer, and how can you kind of look at that cross-border peace building across communities?
Well, first of all, it's an absolute honor to be here, and I really believe that peace is not a noun, it's a verb. You know, it's an act of doing, and it's something that we have to consistently do. I am passionate about the creative sector, and I believe that music is so much in synergy with sports. As Africans, you know, we express through our movement and our sound, and that's something I'm so proud of. And when it comes to synergizing both, you know, I thought about this. I thought, why is football for peace so important? And I think about how it fills a gap. You know, we talk about the Africa we want. I'm unapologetically African, and the Africa we want, you know, I know there's a mandate directive for 2063, but that whole journey takes a while, but it takes collaboration. And And when we think about music and sports and some of, dare I say, our superstars from the continent,
100%.
they are within those sectors. And I'm not the greatest sportswoman, but I must highlight my Super Falcons in Nigeria, who have done an amazing job, 11 times champions for Africa. Hopefully our Super Eagles can catch up to our Falcons. But, you know, I thought about it, thinking about SDGs that I represent, you know, 4 and 5. So quality education and gender equality. And when you think about sports and music, what we're seeing within, you know, the AU today is that we want to create an Africa that we want, not that is decided for us. And I think one of my superpowers is being African. And so the way we can come in as creators, there's so many stakeholders. We have the private sector, the public sector, but also those on ground. And I think it's really important. And as I walked in this room, despite, honestly, I think New York traffic is as bad as Lagos traffic. As I walked in, I saw we are, I believe, in the Nelson Mandela room. And I thought about what he said so long ago, which is, education is the greatest tool to change the world. And we are all here getting educated about what football can do. And I mean, I can't think of anything better. So a big congratulations to all of you for this. So important.
As a role model to millions, how do you see this relationship and engaging with the youth? Because obviously, as you mentioned, that Africa we want, you know, the 63 plan, but it's all about the future generations. So how do you see the best way of engaging those and keeping that relationship moving for the legacy for them to continue with it? Because they need to own it.
Absolutely. I think you have said something so important, Ash, owning. I'm an international DJ, but I believe that music has given me my platform, but my purpose has come from philanthropy. And so engaging the youth in all these projects, all these amazing things, we have to ensure they see the future. Ensure that they understand that every time they stand up, you know, for themselves, it's so beyond them, it's bigger than them. And I think that there is an investment to be made. It's, you know, I was learning about the younger generation, the waves of people coming up. They care so much. And so they need to understand what projects like this mean, and it's so beyond just the game, and that's why we're all here. You know, we're not here this morning for a football match, but we know football is so much more than sport. You know, so we need to make sure that we tell that story. There's so many stories. I mean, in the music industry, we can talk about those young girls that have now become global icons, but it starts with that grassroots, and so we need to make sure that we're supporting incubating this talent. And I think that's how we'll get the youth to get involved. Like I said, messaging is everything. And I want everyone to understand, you know, as I'm also learning about this amazing project and quite overwhelmed by the big visions for 2063 at the AU, it's really about just being here, just showing up. You know, it's about doing as much as you can for as many as you can, as long as you can for our continent. And that's good enough.
That's amazing. Thank you so much.
All right, I'm going to turn over to Mr. Robert Skinner. And Robert, given your role at the UN, you work at the intersection of diplomacy, development, and collaboration. So why is football and sport more broadly such an important tool for advancing the UN's mission for peace and sustainable development?
Great, thank you so much, Dean. Thanks to Football for Peace, Dash, you've done an amazing job in the AU Peace Fund. Great words this morning, and it's really inspiring to be here from the United Nations and seeing old friends and some new friends. I don't think you know that we work together, but we actually do. Yeah, you supported one of my programs a great deal with Josh. So we'll have a chance to talk about that after. But first of all, I'm a sportsman. I mean, I love it. I love the fact that we're bringing together both the footballs. And you can probably tell from my accent that I grew up much more with the U.S. version of football, but have become a huge fan and supporter of what is, at this point, the more global game. I think even our colleagues from the NFL would admit that. And the power of this game of football to reach everyone everywhere. And I think that's what we need to be doing from the United Nations. We need to get beyond, I'm sorry to say it, the bubble that we operate in here, particularly during High Level Week, where we can't get past security, the traffic's insane, our building sits behind necessarily a big security fence, and people can't really access it. So we can take our values and what we stand for. Parfait, it's so amazing to see you here. We spent a lot of time wandering around Washington together over many years, so it's really amazing to be connected back here. To take us out. We're here to save succeeding generations from the scourge of war, but also to work on sustainable development, but also to work on human rights. And we need to reach people where they are. And I've heard different quotes. How many people watch the Qatar World Cup? 3 billion to 3.5 billion, something in that range. There's not an activity in the world, and I don't just say sport in the world, but a human activity that reaches more people, and more people care about, pay attention to, than football. And the other thing is, it's fun. Sports is fun. We all want to be engaged with it, whether we're getting older and becoming fans like myself, or still trying to participate and play. Everyone would love to be a part of it. And so I think that what we've done at the UN is recognize the power of football. In my department, the Department of Global Communications, our job is to reach out to people in a language that is understandable, makes sense. And so we created something called Football for the Goals, which Football for Peace was one of the first signees on to the initiative of Football for the Goals to become part of this effort to take that out across the global community. And we manage the Football for the Goals program within, we act as a secretariat within the Department of Global Communications, but as a UN system-wide effort, both across the agency's funds program, but also through our country teams on the ground around the world, to meet people where they are, playing football, watching football, engaging in football, and obviously hitting the young people when they're playing. And so at this point, we've engaged over 400 organizations from all of the 6 major regional governing bodies of sport, including CAF, who has become very active and engaged with Football for the Goals. And I think will be a great partner through all of this. So down to grassroots organizations that really deliver on the goals on the ground throughout Africa. So the idea is to create partnerships like this one. I mean, gosh, you do the job for us with Football for Peace, because you reach out and help us and guide us to do a better job. And I just think it presents such amazing opportunity. What is unfortunately a bit of a fragmented and fractured world at the moment, to take something that people love and love to do together and get it out there. And again, as in the Department of Global Communications and the Outreach Division, that's our job, and this is the ideal way to get it done.
So I'm going to dive a little bit deeper there, given the long and successful history so far of your UN's Football for the Goals campaign. Going from the concept of partnership and the beginning of partnerships to direct implementation and activities on the ground, what lessons learned or hints do you have for this new partnership between Football for Peace and the UN Peace Fund?
Yeah, I think that as I said, we're taking lessons for Football for Peace in some cases.
I'm not sure about that.
As well, because I think that all of us would admit that, well, we love football and we've learned geography and politics of football, which I've also learned to be about as challenging as the politics of the plan across the global football community. But I think it's, identify specific areas where you can get work done. I think it's easy to get, a little bit distracted by opportunities that may look interesting and attractive, but aren't going to deliver impact on the ground. So I think what we're trying to identify is who are those partners that are engaged with us that actually are delivering on the ground and what do we have done. I mean, from the UN side, I think all the governments in the room would be aware of it. We have to be very aware of the greenwashing, or the blue washing as we call it with the UN, to make sure that any organization that's engaged with us is actually delivering so that we can explain to the member states why we're engaging with these organizations. And so, with the Football for the Goals initiative, we are asking everyone who signs out with us to provide impact reports. Let us know what they've done to support the Sustainable Development Goals. Which of the SDGs are they focusing on? What are they thinking about? And how are they actually getting that done in their communities? because I think as we think of the SDG agenda and how it fits into the sports space, particularly the football spaces, it's this broad, universal agenda that everyone said was too complicated, but it's really not. It's the issues that underlie them that we have to be working on and delivering on. We don't expect everyone to work on all 17, but football is a natural, at least 4 or 5 or 6 of them, and then actually in many more. An interesting story, sorry to digress for a minute into another regional role, but when we worked with CONCACAF, the governing body for this region, in North America, Central America, and the Caribbean, they talked to us, they said, we don't really work on the SDGs, we don't work on any of them. And we said, well, you actually probably do. Football's healthy, right? It's good for your health. You're probably using it as a mechanism to educate the young people that are involved with you. Yes, there's that. They said, so before you sign on, go back and think about it. See which SDGs you work on. And then we had another conversation in a couple of weeks, and you can see whether you want to be part of football, the goals or not. They came back, they're actually working on 13 of the 17 goals. So football is connecting on many, many levels across the goals. But sometimes, organizations understandably don't recognize that what they're doing is connected to the SDGs and this global agenda. So I think having the organization work on what they're good at, what they're doing, what their focus already is, don't create new things, because a lot of people are doing great stuff out there. We just have to get them together so that we're all cooperating and driving this agenda as one. And football can do that.
Okay, so switching over to American football. So, the NFL has been expanding in Africa. Obviously, it's now a key continent for the NFL's growth. So what's their strategy and how are you engaging with communities, and what's the vision for NFL Africa?
Yeah, Africa, first off, thank you for having us here. Really appreciate it. NFL Africa has expanded to Kenya, Ghana, Nigeria, and South Africa. Actually, our Vice President of Football Development is Roman Oben. He's from Cameroon, and he's the first Cameroonian that has been drafted in an NFL draft in 1996. So he's really leading the strategy of NFL Africa. And we have several players that have played, that are former players, Osi Uminora, and several others that are current men that are in the league. And they've been going back to the places that they grew up and just getting an understanding that football, American football, and I know this is very football for peace, but it can be an anchor in your community. It can be the good fruit that it can produce is individual attributes that can come from it. It's very much a team sport, but we've heard stories similar to like the Olympics. When you tune into the Olympics, you're getting to know who are these athletes, what makes, like, we see them, understand their names, and that's the same with American football. And our strategy is like we have this platform, this game that is obviously grown, and it's helped people come from wherever you are, wherever you come from, get them out of where they are and building back the community. And some people have come from communities that they're great, like they grew up in a beautiful place and home, and then some people have these stories of perseverance and adversity and how have they overcome. And that's the beauty of American football and really sports in particular. So our strategy is understanding specific African Union in Africa is like we have since 2024 130 NFL players that are either from Africa, born in Africa, grew up there, or first generation born in America, but their family, has come from Africa. So just like understanding, like we have future leaders. We actually have an international player pathway program. So each of the 32 NFL teams, gonna kind of bring the NFL knowledge here, but each of the 32 NFL teams has one spot on their roster that can be designated to an international player. And so Africa is growing with flag football. And the youth, youth ambassadors, we talk about that. These are leaders. These are who are the current leaders in the community, and then how can we use this game of American football to grow the next generation? With 2028 being an Olympic sport for flag football, as I looked on the wall, I saw 2063, just Africa's goals and plans, and like go tap into that. Like 2028, like. Get the flag football teams growing, and there's just a way to build up your community where it's not just words, it's action, and you're teaching character. So I'll pause there, but I'm really thankful to be here and just learn I just know we have people in our senior leadership that can speak to this, and I'm a messenger, so I love learning, so I appreciate it.
Megan, coming back to you.
Yeah.
Can't let you put that easy. So, so obviously football and soccer have got this immense cultural power. And obviously, a couple touched on it with music and art, etc. Whereas football for peace, when we came to the US, everyone said, so you're soccer for peace, and we were like, well, not really. That's why obviously we got the NFL involved. But how do you think we can actually unify on a wider scale of the soccer and football coming together? Obviously, I know there's a lot of soccer players that love football, and football players want to be soccer players, all of that. But outside of that, how do we engage that youth element to combine these two? The peace, development, food security, water security, all the things that we all care about. What is that message?
Yeah, I know in the United States, obviously, American football is like primo. It's the top sport. So if we get out of our bubble and understand, hey, there's football, there's, I grew up playing soccer. We understand, like, you are in communities, like you're already there speaking with the people. You have established organizations that are creating impact, and so I see us, yes, in my perspective in mind is like, oh, we have NFL players that grew up playing soccer and now they're kickers for the NFL, or they're playing some position at the NFL, but it's keeping this relationship. I know Josh Norman, I'm not sure where he is, but he, having ambassadors that are part of the NFL collab with Football for Peace and speak with world leaders and say, hey, like, here's the needs of our community, here's what we're doing. So I come from the NFL Foundation world, so we provide grants, we provide funding to nonprofit organizations. I know we're going to get into that question later. But how I see that is we have ambassadors that can come back to these communities, or they're already there in the community, and be able to give to organizations like Football for Peace that are, that's how collaboration starts, is kind of have this common link. And I'll mention this too, this is wordy, but I was looking at, like, what does the root word, like, community mean? Like, I come from community relations, community engagement, so, like, communitas, like, it means fellowship, unity, public, like, you're in the public square contending for the welfare of your city, of where you're growing up. So, like, if you have the platform, if you have the funding, let's give it to organizations that are creating impact, that are showing the data, and seeing these youth leaders come back and bring their families, or be able to speak to their community. So,
I mean, just not put, I know we have host cities here for the FIFA Legacy for 2026.
Yeah.
But I know obviously we ran over time as well, but I guess it might be good just to open the floor to some questions. Dean Hader, what do you think? People with some thoughts. Obviously there's so many amazing people in this room, from the government, State Department, who've been supporters for the Football for Peace for many years. So yeah, I mean, guys, please don't feel free shy. You guys are here, any questions please, or even cross-collaboration conversations between thought leadership. Oh, you can just press the mic. Sorry.
Good morning, everybody. Good morning, everybody. This question goes to Megan. I was hearing you. Hi, how you doing? Over here.
I'm trying to find you.
Should be on the TV.
Introduce yourself if you can.
Okay, hi, how you doing? My name is Darche Belf. I'm a detective for the New York City Police Department under the Community Advancement Program. Community Ambassador Program. So my question goes to Megan. Megan, how you doing?
Good.
So I hear you say you mentioned about the flag football, right? How do you feel about flag football being spread out throughout other countries as well? And do you know that the NYPD has a flag football team under the NFL?
I didn't know that, but I love that. We'll connect after this too. But we feel great. We feel great about it. It's hard to see behind the pillar there, but we're gonna keep breaking down barriers. But yeah, so we want to continue to grow this sport. We believe in the game of football, and we see how in our communities, we have 32 NFL teams here in America. Since 2007, we've been going international, specifically in London and the UK, and now, all of a sudden, in the last few years, we are growing the game across the world. It's a global sport now. And so, to answer your question, like, we see the benefit of it. I can only use so many words, but like we see young people that are gravitating this sport that want to play it. There's a need and a want there. It's not like we're forcing it. We're introducing it, and then from that place, can it grow? And it's just been growing. And each NFL team has international rights, so they're going into communities and hosting, yes, fan events, but they're getting to know community organizations. So Football for Peace or other organizations that are doing the work there that can understand, hey, here's our community need, and we connect back to philanthropic efforts as well, community efforts, in addition to this glitz and glamour game that's happening in that community too. So we see a benefit, and we'll talk about how we can support NYPD detectives here.
Thank you.
So I think it's a
I'm not quite sure if it's me, but not sure. Sorry to interject. Hello, everyone. First of all, my name is Mac Juma. As a Kenyan, and this is something that I'm actually happy to say I'm proud for the first time in global ways. I'm a student at NYU studying global concentration in global economics. My question goes to Mr. Aluhuba. I know for a fact this is quite amazing seeing UBA.
You're putting him under pressure, look.
UBA is doing amazing things, especially African, and as an African born in Kenya, raised in Nairobi, I know the direct correlation. But I wanted to more focus on like that diaspora. I would say like financial aspect. And if you look at the African diaspora in America, we generate over, I want to say, 3 billion plus sending money back to families back. That's just one aspect. But I want to see, is there any way you guys can leverage the level of the African, community in the diaspora? Because there's a lot of money being funneled in there, and how can we use that to actually promote, organizations like Football for Peace? And then, by the way, Cash, you're doing an amazing job with this. And as a former football player, I've been knowing about you for a while, so I'm glad to see you. But I just wanted to see if there's any other way of moving forward with this in a global landscape, especially utilizing, I would say, regional partnerships, right? The East African community and so on and so forth. I hope my question makes sense, but it was a pleasure meeting all of you. You guys are amazing. Thank you.
Your question makes so much sense. I give you some statistics. I think Nigeria is getting about 20 billion remittances coming into Nigeria every year. Kenya gets about 4 billion coming in every year. And truth be told, remittances are supporting economies in Africa, and we need to be serious about it. So in Nigeria, what the Central Bank of Nigeria is doing now is to make sure we open up the banking system to diaspora communities so that they'll be able to open an account, to be able to run an account, and be able to run their business even in the home country, and they'll be part of the economy. That is going on now. If you're Nigerian and you don't have your BVN, you can register that online now. And with that registration, you can open an account. Because we really need you guys here in diaspora to be part of the community, the economy in the home country. And that is important, not just for Nigeria, but for other countries. That will help us catapult even economies in Africa and make them do better. Kenya is a good example. We get more remittance from tea. Tea gives Kenya $1.4 billion and remittance to oil too in Nigeria gives about $25 billion, and remittance can even do 30 billion. That's the power of the community that we have.
very good. You want to go?
Hi everybody, my name is Hawatin Kamara Diallo, former DDC staff, so shout out to my boss, Rob Skinner, and kudos to them for the work they are really doing for the Football for Gold. But as an African, a Sierra Leonean that has grown up here in the US, so football is my thing. And I have 2 boys, 20 and 27, who have gone through flag all the way to high school football. Positive experience, but as a parent now I'm speaking, so I always bring it to a personal thing. There are challenges also, because the positive thing about football is I always saw it as a parent as a movement. When the coach spoke, there was nothing for me to do as a parent. It was a losing battle until I became one of those parents in the stand, neck and neck with the coach and the team. So it was really positive for my two boys, but I'm wondering in the African context, because that's where I'm working now, in civil society, how do we leverage that power of the team? Because it is so powerful in football that we can activate at the local level. Because working on the local level, what I find sometimes in Africa, we may just be serving, is that people are intimidated when we come with all these things, and they're scared to activate. So how do we leverage that team power, that when the coach says something, it's a go? And how do we bring it into community? Thank you so much for listening.
Yeah, beautiful question. And I would say, team, coach, you have a leader who's establishing other leaders. So if you can have a coach, and I don't know like the experience with this specific coach, but ideally speaking, you're having coach train up these young men, and I know flag includes women as well, but these young men and women, and they are training them on, here's how, because the game of football, whether it's football or American football, it can symbolically correlate with life. Like, you're bringing what is happening at home, and you're sometimes either focused then on the game and practice, it's like an outlet. Also, you're getting to know your fellow teammates, and the coach is like a parent in that moment of like, they're understanding, okay, this player of mine is going through this person's going through that. So you're coming from all these different people with their different backgrounds into a team for the common goal of winning a game, but also how are you winning off the field too. So if that's a healthy structure of like communication, and then that coach isn't also just bearing up the mom and dad or the parents, but you're all joining in. Like, there's a moment where it's just the coach speaking to the team. I get that. And then it could be a moment where the coach is then bringing in the parents into the mix and saying, like, these are our team goals. Here's our season. Sharing meals together, going to dinner, going to lunch. And it sounds like elementary things that can seem like, well, that sounds so simple. But it starts in the simplicity where it's to actually establish a foundation. So you have like this, you know, it can be philosophical, but it's not. It's just like simple life. And if you have a strong team, it takes one person, like it takes one athlete, and you understand their story as a person. It can change lives. Nelson Mandela, like, just like you hear about one person's name, and they affected millions of people, whether positively or negatively. So I think if you start there, and please expound upon your question if I didn't fully answer it, but I say you get that right, like in the nucleus of the team, that just launches across like the globe.
Wow, the best dressed person in the room. Hello.
Thank you very much. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Ambassador Junisa Kalum. I'm speaking on behalf of young people in the room, particularly so women. From the Global South, I have seen firsthand experience how enthusiastic, how dedicated women can get to play the sports. From the country I'm from, Sierra Leone, I've seen where women have to take by road from Freetown, the capital, all the way to Algeria to play matches. How can we make sports more sustainable and viable for women who are very key in channeling and championing peace in some of these conflicted communities? As we see in the Sahel, I know football can be a unifying force to stop some of the unwarranted coups, unwarranted military activities on the African continent. And I have seen firsthand recently when there was an attempt in my country how sports unified both the present people or supporters of the government and the opposition. We all went to the stadiums and had a good time. Nobody was talking politics. How can we leverage on this power that football or soccer has brought joy to communities and people who don't have norms or political etiquettes? And how can that be a unifying force to advance the global agendas of Nigeria 2030 and Nigeria 2063? Thank you very much.
No, thank you. I think that's a really important question. I mean, it is SDG 5 after all. So we have to be able to work on that one. And I think that one of the things you have to do is raise our voices and make sure that the game is inclusive. One of the things we're doing with Football for the Goals is saying every organization that submits an application, we make sure that that organization has a women's and girls programs within what they're doing, and not just men and boys. They have to have a girls team and a women's team, or be working toward equal pay. I mean, I think we're driving toward that at sort of the professional level and the national team level, and just making sure that it's inclusive from the youth programs on down. And that's what I think, to your point, of getting down to that community level and making sure that at the grassroots community level, all the organizations that are involved in football, but sport more broadly, or any activities are putting girls programs into their efforts. I think it's absolutely critical. And I think that if we can get the governments, to the support governing bodies, to the local community organizations to always think about and consider that, that's what we need to do. But we need to keep voicing, keep our voices loud on that, and making sure there's pressure on it within the community, so they know that people want, girls and women to play sports. I mean, I like to wear my T-shirt. Everyone watches women's sports, right? I mean, I don't know if folks have seen those shirts that kind of came out of the WNBA, the basketball space, and I think we need to let them know. We want that. Everybody wants that. Men and boys want it as much as girls want it.
I just wanted to add on that because I think you so rightly highlighted SDG 5. There's no doubt African women are some of the strongest, most resilient lot in the whole world. I wouldn't choose to be any other thing. But I also agree, we just have to speak up. There's a lot of parallels with the music industry and also sport. I remember when, I said I wanted to be a female DJ from Nigeria. And now there's so many, and I think it just takes being loud, and it just takes starting. There's never a better time to start. And I grew up with a collective and a community sense. My aunties, my grandma, and I've seen women, especially across the continent, be some of the most entrepreneurial and, like I said, resilient. So we apply that energy to sports, and we are unstoppable. And I just want to say, I think it was Maya Angelou who said, each time a woman stands up for herself, she stands up for all women. So we just need to stand up, everyone. Let's stand up.
Let me just add a little bit from most of the times the problem or the challenge is the facilities. Do we have the infrastructure for sports? Is the problem. And at times we point fingers, maybe government is not providing enough. And I don't think government can provide all the facilities. So that public sector, private sector collaboration becomes so important for some of these facilities to be provided. Once those facilities are there, people find a way. And I give an example, I just give an example of Cameroon, where we had to come in to provide facilities. And then working with the Cameroonian Football Association to provide a head office for them. So even support the players out there. So private sector has to come in and begin to really work with the public sector to provide these facilities in Africa. And that would help. And not just the big facilities that you think about. It can just be a small field in the marketplace in one local community. And personally, individually, all of us that are here can even begin to do a little thing, one after the other, cumulatively, to help improve the facilities that we have in African sports.
So I know the U.S. State Department is here. Okay, I'm gonna jump to the State Department quick because they're the State Department. So let's just jump for 1 second. Mr. Irfan and DC Moss, question. As to why you led sports intervention programs over the last 10 years. Can you speak a little bit to that? Not sure where you are. Hi, oh hello.
Well, let me first say, I don't represent the State Department. I used to.
Misinformation my way, don't blame me.
No. In a previous capacity, so I'm not at all speaking for the U.S. Department of State. But what I can say is partnerships and initiatives with organizations like Football for Peace were very, very central to what it was that we were trying to do. For example, to reduce tensions in communities, build resilience in communities, and our driving, or the catalyst for our initiatives, of course, from the Bureau for Counterterrorism were security. But we try to look at these issues in a holistic way, appreciating that if people's basic needs aren't met, if they don't have work, if they don't have meaningful engagement, then our efforts on the security front certainly would be hampered. I know my colleague Irfan Saeed, who has worked on these issues for a long time as well, may have additional thoughts to share. Please, Irfan.
Thanks, Ian. I also do not represent the State Department anymore. I spent a long time with the State Department.
I'm just the MC here, guys.
We're just doing our legal aspects here. But we spent a lot of time working on these issues, and Cash and I go way back. So first I have to say kudos to Football for Peace and all the work, Cash, you're the driver of this, all the work that you all are doing. I had the privilege of spending a week in Abuja with Football for Peace. And until you get on the pitch and you see how these kids are interacting with each other in a time and a place where they never would have interacted, and by the end of that week, seeing how they are like this, I'm a believer. That's why I'm no longer in the State Department, I'm sitting right here, because I will do whatever I can to continue to support this mission. Why we do the things we do, everything Ian said is absolutely correct, but we're in a different time right now. One of the reasons why we continue to argue for this type of support was youth, football, peace, we're in competition. We're in competition with these things. And you can't have youth, football, and peace if you can't get them off of these things. Get them off of these things, touch grass, get back on the pitch. So anything we can do to continue to push that for the future, I'm all in.
Okay, we have one last question that we're going to pick. Who you get to pick? You, beautiful in the back.
Hello, my name is Donna Zubuda. I'm a diaspora member of civil society. I'm committed to all people, organizations, businesses, industries, and the community of nations fulfill their higher purpose and legacy for humanity. And I'm here to see how football can connect the entire world to humanity. And I think one of the, is to me the world's greatest game, the SDG goals. And it remains to be created as a game. And the players for that are the children and students of the world. But many of them don't even know that the SDG goals exist, and that the SDG goals are actually a way for them to get the skills that they're learning, what the game they love, in soccer, that they are actually learning team, they're learning responsibility, they're learning discipline, and all skills that could go into a project that supports the SDGs, and then connect that with, oh, these are giving me skills for that may be good for jobs and employment. So, and it's also a way to learn, for children to learn about the other countries in the world. I know America, you know, many students don't know anything besides America, but this would be a wonderful way to have each student be introduced to the SDGs through soccer and connect with the world community. And I think America might benefit from that kind of engagement. And I don't know how many people here know that in December of 2004, an organization with consultative status here at the UN made a declaration at the 1M1B, 1 million for 1 billion impact summit, Activate Impact Summit. And that declaration was every student in every classroom, in every school, in every country knows the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals and takes at least one action to help fulfill them. With all of us together, we can and will create a new future. So it is totally possible for each country to see that their schools are aware of the SDGs and in a fun way by, giving them the ball, and maybe children in different countries can donate the ball or pass it forward. And it's, it's a marvelous, marvelous opportunity. And it's also a way to, there's just so much there that's possible. So, and actually there is a young man, a representative from Sierra Leone, created an extraordinary video giving this declaration out to the world. So I hope you all see it, and that's the invitation. I think that's the opportunity, and that's the way that we can have children and students really fly this. They have that capacity. They just need awareness and opportunity to do so. Thank you.
Thank you. So we're about to close out. We have, this one's ready to leave. Go. Go, handsome, go. We have some refreshments. We've got some food coming. I'm sorry, I really want to say yes, but some others want to go. I'm not sure which way to do it. I mean, look, that's mine. All right, I'll give you, you got 2 minutes on the floor. 2 minutes.
Yeah, thank you very much. My name is Abdul Here at one of the foundations that is employing people in the community of advertising and recreation. But also I'm a researcher at the University of Warsaw. I'm working on the limitations of African Technology Organization in implementing the R2P. So when it comes to peace and sport, for me, for example, when you're talking about peace, it's something that is actually, we see there's a conflicting area, because I come from Rwanda. So when you see there's a conflict somewhere, it's when we start making peace. So how do we leverage, how do we promote sport in a way of preventive ways to make that sport more peaceful and also contribute to that peace that we want to have? Thank you.
Thank you so much. I'd like to thank Dean Hayter. Thank you so much. Cash, thank you so much. We're going to have some closing remarks again. I'm so excited to introduce this. And this is, I think, are you going to stay here? Okay. Okay,
Thank you very much, everyone. And I'm not going to add anything because everything has been said, and I would like to thank our guests of honor, our panelists, all the participants for being here. We know that it means and it requires guts and commitment to be here today at this time. And we really want to thank you for that. And for the last question that has been raised, we can discuss, because Football for Peace and Peace Fund, AU Peace Fund collaboration is all about that. And we have coffee and tea outside, and it's going to be time for networking. We know that most of you have a number of questions. You may engage with our panelists during the tea and coffee time. And thank you so much for being here. All right. So thank you so much for being here, and thank you so much for the contribution.
Can we have all the speakers and panelists come step in front of the podium for a picture, please?